welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Hishain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Government not given to set up multi-storied car parks and expressway investment company. Sri Lanka's merchandise export earnings surpassed $1 billion mark in September. News in detail. The cabinet approval has been provided to set up an expressway investment company under the ownership of the Secretary to the Treasury, enabling the company to raise the funds required for the construction of expressways. In the meantime, the cabinet has also agreed to construct multi-storied vehicle parking premises and to implement mixed development projects in several selected areas. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, as the Minister of Finance, has put forward a proposal for the incorporation of a company solely owned by the Secretary to the Treasury to collect funds required by itself for the construction of the expressways, enabling it to collect the income generated from the tolls collected from expressways and other revenue-generating sources related to expressways. It is noted that about 0.5% to 1% of the GDP will have to be allocated to finance the proposed expressways and the expressways currently under construction. Thereby, currently the 100,000-kilometer rural road project is in progress and the government has given priority to the completion of the Central Expressway, the commencement of the construction of the Ruwanpura Expressway and the completion of the Kalaniya to Athuragiri Expressway on Towers. On the other hand, the government has approved the building of multi-storied vehicle parking premises in selected areas in Colombo, Anuradhapura and Kandy districts. Thus, Media Minister and Cabinet spokesperson Keheli Ramakwala added that the program to construct and maintain vehicle parking premises by investors selected as per the open competitive procurement process has been planned to minimize the daily traffic congestion caused due to the influx of vehicles in Colombo and the suburbs. Thereby, these projects will be implemented under two methods. The government invites proposal from the private sector investors for the construction of general multi-storied vehicle parks and mechanical parking stations at 8 venues within Colombo and the suburban of Bathuramulla, Anuradhapura and Kandy as a state-private joint venture. On the other hand, the government invites proposals for the construction of general multi-storied vehicle parking premises and mechanical parking stations in Narahempita, Telecom Car Park in Petta, the car park at the Otter Sports Club, Colombo 7 and Kensi Avenue, Colombo 7 with other appropriate projects including housing units, office spaces, so that the expenditure for the project can be generated from the project itself on a pre-sale basis. Moreover, Cabinet of Ministers has approved to reform the non-banking financial institution supervision department of the Central Bank and to formulate a new institutional structure to regulate the finance companies. Thus, the decision was taken as the committee appointed to look into the irregularities of the Edrisinghe Trust Investments Limited has pointed some lapses of the said department of the Central Bank. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa appointed a committee to investigate, inspect and report the alleged wrongdoings and irregularities of the Edrisinghe Trust Investment Limited, which was chaired by retired Supreme Court Judge K.T. Chitrasiri. Mr. Keheli Ramakwala said the committee had pointed out that various offences were committed in violation of the Companies Act, Finance Business Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Financial Transactions Reporting Act, provisions relating to acquisition of land in Sri Lanka by foreigners and the Penal Code of Sri Lanka. Moreover, the committee has recommended to restructure the non-banking financial institutions supervision department of the Central Bank. Furthermore, Cabinet has agreed to forward the report to the Attorney General to take immediate legal actions to execute the recommendations of the committee. It was also agreed to report the measures that are to be taken thereof to the Parliament by Minister of Justice Ali Sabri. In the meantime, Cabinet spokesperson Keheli Ramakwala responded to these queries of the journalist on the issue.
Edrisinghe Trust Investment Limited, the main demand of the depositors who have become destitute of the collapse of the entity, their main demand is to sell the properties of Edrisinghe Trust Investment, pay their dues. Will this happen and when, if it is possible?
Well, this is a very complex situation. Under these circumstances, That's why, with a retired judge, we have appointed a commission to give their report. They have given the report accordingly, and then we will act according to that report. That report says that there are so many assets that belongs to this organization which has not been disclosed. So, therefore, all that will be taken to an assessment, and then also the activities that took place when this transaction took place, the activities that related to this entire transaction was done by the unit with the central bank. Now, there are certain doubts and certain readings of the commission has been given. So, all this will have to be taken into consideration, and as you suggested, it is the final idea is to pay the depositors. That we will make sure and ensure that we will do that. To do that, you need to make the background to the entire thing.
Export Development Board Chairman Prabhash Subasinghe says that merchandise exports have surpassed the $1 billion mark in September after July during this year. Issuing a statement to the media, Export Development Board adds that this is the third time during the year they have seen a year-on-year increase of merchandise exports. As per the customs statistics, earnings from merchandise exports recorded a positive growth of 5.16% in September 2020 to over $1,000 million as compared to the value of $952 million recorded in September last year. Subasinghe also added that the performance was consistent with the gradual lifting of restrictions due to COVID-19 pandemic within the country and globally. He also explained that increases in exports were recorded over 20% from the Europe region, 19% from the Commonwealth of Independent States, and 56.4% from the African region in September 2020. He also showed that earnings from merchandise exports in September 2020 increased by 5.65% compared with the value recorded in August 2020. He further added that export earnings from apparel and textile declined by 3.75% to $431.87 million during the month of September 2020 compared with $448.68 million recorded in September 2019. Export earnings from tea in September 2020, which made up 12% of merchandise exports, increased by 3.3% with $113.99 million, but the export volume was decreased by 2.82% in September 2020 compared to September 2019. In addition, export earnings from tea recorded 10.7% increase in September 2020 in comparison to August 2020. The expansion was mainly due to high demand for tea from Turkey, Russia and Chile. In addition, export earnings from rubber and rubber finished products have increased by 10.54% in September, and earnings from all the major categories of coconut-based products also increased in September 2020 compared with September 2019. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The Health Ministry has advised the ready-made garment factory owners to follow strict health guidelines pertaining to COVID-19. In the meantime, the Minuwangoda COVID-19 cluster has surpassed 1,440 cases as of today evening. The Health Ministry today met with the ready-made garment factory owners to ensure that no further transmissions of COVID-19 are scattered in the society and to discuss about the protocols taken to combat the recently emerged COVID-19 cluster. During the meeting, it was added that the garment employees' details and their residential and boarding places should be recorded. Furthermore, the factory owners are asked to conduct PCR tests of their employees at least once in 2 weeks. In the meantime, another 49 individuals were confirmed to have contracted the COVID-19 virus as of today afternoon. All those cases have been identified from the Minuwangoda COVID-19 cluster. Accordingly, the Minuwangoda COVID-19 cluster has grown to more than 1,440 cases. Moreover, 3,328 patients who have contracted the virus have been discharged after a full recovery. Government expenditure for the year 2021 has been estimated at 2,678 billion rupees, with the highest allocations for the ministries of Defence, Highways and provincial councils. The appropriation bill for the year 2021, which was approved by Cabinet last week, also authorizes the raising of loans in or outside Sri Lanka in respect of certain activities of the government. According to the Gazette notification, the total 2,678 billion rupees is to be made with the collection of 1,714 billion rupees for recurrent expenditure and 963 billion rupees for capital expenditure. The estimated expenditure of the government authorized by laws to be charged on the consolidated fund shall be 2,228 billion rupees for 2021. The limit on borrowings for the financial year 2021 has been set at 2,900 billion rupees, with the details of such loans to be incorporated in the final budget position report, which is required to be tabled in Parliament under Section 13 of the Fiscal Management Responsibility Act number 3 of 2003. The highest allocations in the budget will be for the Ministry of Defence, topping 355 billion rupees, of which 316 billion rupees will go towards recurrent expenditure, while capital expenditure at 38 million rupees. The State Ministry of Internal Security, Home Affairs and Disaster Management has been allotted around 152 billion rupees. The State Ministry of Provincial Councils and Local Government, under which allocations are made to the 9 provinces, has been allocated over 338 billion rupees. The Ministry of Highways will get around 330 billion rupees, while the Ministry of Public Services, Provincial Councils and Local Government will get around 271 billion rupees. The allocation for the Ministry of Finance is around 157 billion rupees, and the Ministry of Education has been allocated over 126 billion rupees. The Ministry of Health has been allocated around 159 billion rupees, while the Ministry of Urban Development and Housing will get around 23 billion rupees. The expenditure for the President's office has been estimated at 9.3 billion rupees, while the office of the Prime Minister has been allocated just over 1 billion rupees. The government has agreed to draft a bill to amend the Intellectual Properties Act number 36 of 2003 with the provisions to establish a comprehensive legal framework for the registration of geographical indications in Sri Lanka. Speaking at the 126th Annual General Meeting of the Colombo Tea Traders Association, which is held on 25th of the last month, Sri Lanka Tea Board Chairman Jayampati Molligoda emphasized the need to amend the Intellectual Property Act of 2003 before applying for geographical indication registration.
Ceylon tea also has been registered where GI is not a requirement in other countries. However, there are some other countries the GI is a must. Geographical indication is the process to get the Ceylon tea registration. So this includes a procedure to differentiate unique characteristics of Ceylon tea from other origin teas. By adopting a systematic methodology covering a more systematic tea tasting sessions, we intend applying for the registration after amending the Intellectual Property Law of 2003 just to get home registration. That may not be applicable in some other countries, but when like EU is non-committal, they are not insisting, but there are some of the other important countries like Russia and all insisting there has to be a home registration. Unfortunately, the Intellectual Property Act does not provide.
However, the government today announced that the Trade Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena has advised the legal draftsman to amend the Intellectual Properties Act number 36 of 2003 with the provisions to establish a comprehensive and definite legal framework for the registration of geographical indications in Sri Lanka. Stay tuned for stock updates. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The all-share price index dropped 38.08 points to close at 5,802.97, and the S&P SL20 dropped 30.90 points to close at 2,303.81. The turnover was 5 billion rupees and over 582 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you tomorrow at State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care and good night.